Okay, I'm really not sure where to start, but in fact, I've got some notes here. I'm scheduled to give a history talk to our Wednesday night dinner group sometime soon. But I'm just going to skim through a little bit of this. I first attended this church in 1944. Dad had moved here to Oak Ridge in 1943 on construction, and Mother and I lived with my grandmother in North Carolina until he got a house. He was living in a dormitory. Well, he had started coming to this church in 1943, I guess, and we moved to Oak Ridge in 44 and started coming here. And pretty soon after we moved into our house, Dr. Bertram Larson, who was the minister here, visited us and invited us to come. He was the superintendent of home missions for the Knoxville Presbytery, and he came here on a volunteer basis. Now, remember, this place was run by the Army. Security was high, and so on and so forth. But anyway, he would come each Sunday from Knoxville, and he finally ended up with an office here in Oak Ridge. There were a total of 9 ministers who have served this church starting in 1944. And in addition, there were probably 6 or 7 other ministers who conducted Sunday services for the United Church in all of the movie theaters here in Oak Ridge. Now remember, we had 76,000 people in this fenced-in town in the 40s. So anyway, I consider myself lucky to have been a minister through the tenure of all 9 of those ministers. Okay, I've got here a very important document. This is the original ledger containing the 6 organizational meetings that formed this church. Now, they had a problem. There was no denominational church in Oak Ridge at the time. And it ended up that in the 40s, after this church was formed, we had members who belonged to 36 different denominations. That's why we're called the United Church. Well, when it became possible for churches to lease land and start building their own churches, our membership went way down because a lot of people were loyal to their own denomination. But there were a group of people here who said, wait a minute, we've got something good going here. Let's keep meeting. So the United Church has been here for 70 some odd years now. I'll give you, the first congregation met in October of 1943. That charter congregation consisted of 160 people from 13 different denominations. And they created a board and some trustees. They came up. This church has no denominational creed. We do have a motto where we meet in our differences, are one in our search for God. And that motto has sort of been the basis for the existence of this church. Let me get myself together here. The 12 denominations that were in that original congregation were Assembly of God, Methodist, Lutheran, Baptist, Christian, Evangelical, Presbyterian, Episcopal, Congregationalist, United Brethren of Christ, United Presbyterian, and Church of the Brethren. And it's highly probable that no one of those 160 people are alive today. because if they had been 27 years old when they joined, they would be 100 years old today. So I'm 82, so I guess we're getting there. Now, as I said, we were operating under the authority of the Army. They had charge of everything here. So anything that the church did toward being organized or whatever had to get an Army or military okay. Security was very high. There were basically spies everywhere for the Army. If anybody was acting suspiciously, they probably got reported. So anyway, we came out scot-free, I think. Membership. In the early days, since no one really knew how long they would be in Oak Ridge, you could join this church as an affiliate member and keep your denominational membership in your home church. And many people did that. My parents went ahead and we joined the church, not affiliates. Now, there's some random tidbits from this ledger. There were initially two groups charged with the running of the church, the board and the trustees, and the latter handled the finances of the church, so on. The original salary of the minister was $3,300 a year, with $600 for expenses. But before the church was formally organized, he would come over and there would be an offering taken up. The offering was used to pay whatever bills had been generated that month, and the rest of it was given to Dr. Larson. Later on, he got a salary. Okay, there were 7 Sunday schools operating in Oak Ridge, again in the various schools, and attendance averaged about 1,250 persons a week in those Sunday schools. And at its peak, there were 3,000 children in Vacation Bible School. The chapel was officially leased to the United Church on November the 19th, 1951 by the Army. And it was purchased from the AEC, the Atomic Energy Commission, in 1955. Okay, let's talk about the building itself. This was a Army chapel. You would find similar buildings all over Army bases in the United States. It was built by the Army, and it was their standard design. The altar, which was different, had a cabinet for the Jewish congregation for their Saturday Shabbat. It had an altar for the Catholic congregation, and it had a pulpit for the Protestants. Now, the pews, were something else. The seats were made up of 3 2x4s with rounded edges and 1-inch gaps between the planks. Now, if the sermon was very long, you slowly sank into those 1-inch gaps, and wiggling was not an option. So everybody was very happy when it was time for a hymn and you could stand up. Now, another thing that the Catholics had was on the back of each pew, there were hinged kneeling benches that would fold down. Well, they also made excellent footrests. However, if you weren't careful, you could pull one over. And I guess the ministers liked that because everybody was awake after that. And I know because I pulled one over one time. So, let's see what else we got here. Oh, the Jewish congregation would have their service on Saturday, and then there would be an early mass for the Catholics on Sunday morning. And quite often coming up the hill to go to church, and we would see the priest and the nuns leaving. So it was a pretty universal building here.
Back there.
I'm sorry?
He has a question back there.
Oh, yes.
I think I read, and I'm not sure, was Vacation Bible School or whatever all summer or something?
The church does have Vacation Bible School. It's usually 2 weeks, I think, during the summer.
But in the past, like in 1944, was it all summer?
They had a Vacation Bible School then too, yes. That was one of the first things that was organized.
You remember how many weeks it ran?
No, I do not. I just know they had about 3,000 kids. And they were held all over Oak Ridge, in the theaters, whatever.
There were recreational activities at schools all summer long.
One of the things that was very important, the Army wanted to keep everyone happy here. In spite of the mud, the boardwalks, the gravel roads, whatever. If you wanted to garden, you could go and check out gardening tools, no charge. They just wanted people to be happy. And I don't know if somebody's already mentioned it, we had the 8th largest bus system in the United States in Oak Ridge. There was a bus on every major road about every 15 minutes because there were no cars. Oak Ridge was a very safe place too. I know even when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, I could get on the bus and go anywhere in Oak Ridge. My folks didn't worry about me. They wanted me back for dinner maybe. But anyway, originally the church stood all by itself. We did have a furnace room in the back. And as I remember, in the very early days, there was a big radiator and a fan up here that would blow warm air down. Oh, one other thing, the choir. I can remember one Easter Sunday, we went over to Blankenship Field, which is about 2 blocks over here, so it was a high school football field, did a sunrise service, literally at sunrise. And then we came back to the chapel, and the crowd was so great that they put folding chairs down the aisle, opened all of the windows for the crowd that gathered all the way around the chapel so they could hear the service. Like I said, 75,000 people in Oak Ridge. So, yes, sir.
They had 4,000 weddings here. And
Yes.
they had the Jewish meeting on Saturday, the Christian on Sunday. When did they do the weddings?
They worked them in. Yes, you're right. There have been well over 4,000 weddings. This was the place to get married. I got married here some years ago. But it's a